the biggest challenge, and we're finding the real humans and their real customers across what is the most exciting media landscape ever. CTV and video. So that's what gets our customers.
Matt Wasserlauf is the guy who saw the smoke coming from the dumpster fire that is video ad fraud and decided, yeah, I'm going to fix that. Not with another Band-Aid or a Trust US pitch, but with blockchain, because apparently the only way to clean up advertising's mess is with a technology most people still think is monopoly money for tech bros. As the founder of BlockBoard, he's bringing transparency and accountability to an industry where both concepts are about as popular as pineapple on pizza. If you're ready to hear how he plans to put out the $20 billion bonfire of ad fraud, this episode is for you.
Troutman, the czar of the TCPA, isn't just the guy you call when your phone rings too much. He's the guy you must call. Need to navigate the legal minefield of robocalls, texts, and telemarketing nightmares? Troutman doesn't just give you advice. He hands you a roadmap, a compass, and a do not press this button sign. Practical? Yes. Actionable? Absolutely. And if you're not calling him first, let's be honest, you're probably making a mistake.
Welcome to the ADOTAT Show. I'm Pesach Lattin, your guide through chaos and creativity ad tech. Today we're tackling one of the industry's ugliest truths, video ad fraud. With billions wasted every year, it's a problem crying out for real solutions. Enter Matt Wasserlauf, the founder of BlockBoard, who is using blockchain to bring transparency and accountability to the mess. If you're tired of hearing the same old excuses in advertising, this is the episode you've been waiting for. First of all, Matt, how are you? And no press releases.
I'm sorry? Am I? No press release? Okay. I'm well. Thank you very much, Pesach. I'm very well. Great to be here.
Did I pronounce your last name right?
No, you nailed it. Wasserlauf. Good job. Thank you.
So let's jump into the billion-dollar bonfire that's ad fraud. With 20 to 30 billion in losses each year, why does this mess still burn hotter than a dumpster behind a McDonald's at 3 a.m.? And how does BlockBoard turn the chaos into clarity?
That's the $100 million question, or I should call it the $22 billion. $20 billion question. You know, we're focused on performance. And when I say performance, the old way of thinking about performance was hitting your standard media metrics like reach and frequency and impressions and whatnot. But the performance I refer to are real business outcomes. And for our customers that want to run outside of fraudulent activity and bots and what have you, they're focused on business results like sales and leads and such. So that's how we go to market at BlockBoard.
Ad fraud seems like the hydra of marketing. You cut one head off, two grow back. What is the biggest challenge in keeping it at bay?
Well, the biggest challenge is what we're meeting by running our marketers in a fraud-free environment. So we've tackled the biggest challenge, and we're finding the real humans and their real customers across what is the most exciting media landscape ever. CTV and video. So that's what gets our customers excited, and that's how we're meeting the moment.
What excites you most about it?
As one of the video pioneers, the video advertising pioneers, I'm excited to see it really work. You know, even back in the day, in the early aughts, when we onboarded Procter & Gamble and Unilever and some of the big brands, you know, the focus obviously then was more on the media metrics that I just mentioned. And we had great results and our clients were happy. But when our customers today come back to me and say, Matt, you just drove my business 200%. You just drove record gym joins. You just drove people into my stores at levels I've never seen before. And we're really having an impact on their bottom line. That to me is exciting.
So blockchain gets thrown around like it's a holy grail, but some people think it's just a fad. How are you convincing people? Sorry. A blockchain gets thrown a lot like the holy grail of marketing, but some people think it's a fad. How do you convince them otherwise?
You're gonna see me shine, 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 shine. Walking on beams of light, 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 light. You're gonna see me shine, 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 shine. I can't help myself, no, no. Blue skies, no dark clouds.
Yeah, I don't spend a lot of time trying to convince people on blockchain. When Sam Bankman-Fried went to jail, nobody wanted to talk about blockchain. And I had spent a lot of my time through the past several years trying to justify blockchain because of all the criminal activity that's gone on. But the blockchain we work with is really the technology platform that is separate from cryptocurrency. And so that's, if a customer or somebody wants to understand blockchain, I focus on the underlying technology. That's where I spend my time.
So what's the first step in getting to embrace the new tech without breaking out in hives? Is there like baby steps they can take?
Yes, it's baby steps. Obviously I like to give our customers a taste, let them feel the impact. Now that we are talking about real business outcomes and performance, when our customers see that impact immediately, that changes the conversation. And then they go from baby steps to crawling, walking, and running very fast.
So what does that look like when they start walking really fast?
Yeah, if a typical, test is a $50,000 or $100,000 test in media, then they see, 3, 4, 10x sales, or we call it return on ad spend, ROAS. And that ROAS drives the rest. So they'll come back and say, what can you do with 250,000? What can you do with 1 million? What could you do on an open IO, an open insertion order? So that's when it gets really exciting.
Because I've noticed transparency can also ruffle a lot of feathers. Have you faced resistance from the big players who profit from opacity?
That is our daily challenge. I built the industry with the largest agencies. So they were the natural first people that I turned to say, hey, there's a new way. And I was met with tremendous resistance, fierce resistance. So what I do is I talk to my team about not spending a lot of time there. We work with mainly small, mid-size, independent ad agencies, challenger brands that don't typically go to those big 4 or 5 public ad agencies. So that's where we spend most of our time, all of our time.
So when do you think the big holding companies will get on board?
I think it's getting close. I think that's a great question because, there's a lot that's fomenting right now. Everybody's talking about Interpublic Group and Omnicom merging. I'm starting to see layoffs at some of the other big 4. So you're starting to see a different temperature, a different conversation with a lot of these big agency holding companies.
So what's the biggest misconception about blockchain that you like to get rid of?
Cryptocurrency. That's what everyone associates blockchain with. So
It doesn't have to be cryptocurrency.
I'm sorry?
You're basically saying it doesn't have to be cryptocurrency.
Cryptocurrency is where all the greed mongers are going to play, and so, right. When you get away from the trading of those coins and you look at the underlying technology infrastructure, you start to see some real exciting applications. We use it for what is basically a smart contract, a digital insertion order, if you will. And that's where we get a lot of impact across ad fraud and made for advertising sites. So that's where we spend our time.
So marketers are definitely creatures of habit. Even when their strategies look like a train wreck in slow motion, they keep on doing the same thing. So why do you think we love the status quo so much? And frankly, how do we stage interventions?
Yeah, it's human nature, right, Pesach? No one likes change. So I'll start there, and then I'll go to the advertising industry in specific. Everyone talks about the Wanamaker quote. I know 50% of my ads aren't working. I just don't know which 50%. So right. We've been grown and really bred on this idea that waste is inevitable. So that underlying thesis is really what a lot of the bad actors and, a lot of the people in our trade, live on. And it's very hard to break free of that idea. We used to talk in the early days of digital how we can really get at these real metrics and see, in real time how the advertising works. And we've gotten so far away from that, from just wanting to hold on to this legacy of waste. So it's been really tough, but that's the challenge I signed on for.
How much of this do you think is just the industry's obsession in keeping things the same?
I think it's an obsession, and I think it comes down to, it's a very rich business, is this trading in waste. There's a lot of money that's being made, and when you talk about publicly traded companies, those dollars are, critical to, it's their bottom line. It's what they trade on. So you're talking about lives at stake, that makes it very, very hard for these companies to change.
Do you think part of it's maybe, and we've been saying this for 30 years, not more, that media buyers are just lazy?
That's certainly an important part of it. Especially now in this post-pandemic world where you have a lot of young people who haven't necessarily been trained, who haven't learned best practices, are working remotely and doing things, in their echo chambers and in a vacuum. And, unfortunately, it's very hard to show them and educate them on a new way. And they tend to be socially resistant to understanding a new way. So all of those factor in, yes.
So if you could invent one new KPI that every marketer had to measure, what would it be? And I don't think common sense fits on a dashboard, unfortunately.
Common sense would be great. I was recently asked this on a panel, and I said, maybe just bringing a new perspective, to what we do. I had the fortune of listening to Doug Weaver. I don't know if you know who Doug Weaver is, but he's an industry icon and he spoke to our team yesterday, and he said we all need to back away from the painting, take a new look, a new perspective on things. And if I could tell my industry brethren, to do one thing, I would say back away from the painting, take a fresh look. Let's see how we can, maybe look at this a little bit differently than we have.
So what do you think is the biggest obstacle in marketers trying this new approach? And does it rhyme with bean counters?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's a very it's a financial challenge. It's an existential challenge. And that is why, it's become as big a problem as it has. And when it's the biggest companies, not only in our industry, but in the world, starting with a big G, these are really hard things to pivot. So yes, I believe it does come down to the bean counters at the end of the day. It's going to be, when it does happen, it's going to be cataclysmic.
Let's imagine you had to give a pep talk about embracing change. What would be your rallying cry?
I'm going to go back to what I said at the beginning of this conversation: performance. Ultimately, performance is financial, right? And so for marketers who live and die on their performance, on their sales, on their results, they're going to have to be the ones that really clamor for a new way. And they're going to have to tell the largest companies in the world, there's got to be a different way. I think it comes down to that.
So I'm really familiar with blockchain and advertising. I know that Ethereum powers your platform. How do you explain its role to those who think it's just monopoly money for tech nerds?
Yes, it's the second largest platform in blockchain, Ethereum is. But we built our platform on Ethereum because it was the easiest form of blockchain to build on. It was also the most energy efficient, which I'm proud of. But yes, Ethereum is what we are based on, and all the smart contracts that we use to pre-verify all the ad calls is through Ethereum. Those are the basic reasons we chose Ethereum.
I want to go back and ask a little bit about, you mentioned it's the most environmental friendly, but how do you address that issue that people say blockchain just isn't environmental friendly and requires too much energy per call?
Yeah. I mean, blockchain is, at the end of the day, a technology. And like every other form of technology, it consumes emission. What I am very proud of is, beyond just being the most efficient form of blockchain, what we're doing by decentralizing the entire supply chain in advertising, removing all those hops and all of those excessive CO2 emission drivers, we are saving the earth in the hundreds of millions of metric tons of CO2. Very, very proud of this. In fact, I partnered with EdNet Zero, and we're in the process of quantifying the savings. So decentralization is core to blockchain, not only Ethereum, but all blockchain. And that is really what has created the largest mess in digital advertising, is we have become way too process oriented. The ad side, the supply chain is way too toxic, and we have fixed that big problem.
What if blockchain existed 20 years ago? How do you think the ad industry would look differently? Like, maybe we won't be having this interview. We'd all be on an island.
Yes, you wouldn't be having this. You know, one of the things, and why, you know, I have the hairline I have, is I've been there from the beginning. I saw all the steps that led us to here,
Right.
to $2 billion. And the biggest, you know, the sea change, if you will, happened in the tens with programmatic. So those bad practices that were very manual, and I saw them happen in, you know, low and real time in the aughts, then became automated through the largest programmatic platforms. And we went from millions to tens, hundreds of millions, and now to billions. What I will tell you, Pesach, is I promises to take that into the trillions if we don't make those changes now.
Biggest untapped opportunity for blockchain out of fraud prevention. And can we do something about X's algorithm while we're at it?
Yeah, privacy is the next place we would love to go. We have too big of a challenge with ad fraud, so we haven't yet leaned into the privacy part. But blockchain will really provide a powerful application to protecting people's identity, even going that one step further and compensating people for uses of their identity. So those, I believe, are great next. If we can get through this big challenge, I would love to get to privacy for blockchain.
Is it a revolution or just another tool in the box, you think?
It's a revolution. And the reason it's a revolution is when you get beyond the borders of the United States, most people do not have the identification and the way to control their identification. So there's a huge global opportunity in privacy.
So speaking of revolutions, let's talk a little bit about your leadership style and what it takes to lead an industry full of chaos and, frankly, a lot of egos. Leadership in ad tech is like juggling flaming torches, right, in a unicycle, on a tightrope, with half of the audience rooting for you to fail. What is the secret sauce to staying balanced when the stakes are really this high?
A gentleman who works for me now named Chris Hogan asked me years ago, he said, "Matt, how are you doing this?" And I said, very carefully. This is walking a very fine line. I am running, as I said, I started this company by going to my partners as we built this industry at the big four trading companies, agency holding companies. And it has been a very delicate conversation from day one when we opened the doors. We're now 6 years old. It has not changed. Now, it is quite exciting as we start to drive performance for these smaller and mid-sized agencies, and we change the conversation. But the lion's share of the market has not yet been receptive to this new way of doing things. And so I continue to have very careful, thoughtful, diplomatic conversations so that at least if they're not going to work in this new way, that they're educated and they understand that there is a better way to operate.
So what is your leadership vibe? And does it involve any props like a megaphone or a stress ball?
Both. The stress ball would apply to every stage of my career. The megaphone is going to be important when it's a receptive audience. You know, it's funny. I just went to, for the first time, VCon. It's Gary Vaynerchuk's conference. He does it in LA. He did it in LA. And it was the first time, Pesach, I used a megaphone because it was
a real one?
What's that?
A real megaphone?
No. And, you know, it was a very blockchain receptive conference. That's what and everybody loved this new application. No one was aware there was an advertising application, but they loved the concept, and it was fun shouting from the mountaintop.
So you've also said collaboration is key for a successful team. How do you handle members when egos inevitably clash?
Yeah, I think we do that really well here at BlockBoard. And you told me not to drive a press release, so I'll just say that the example we're setting in the market is it starts and ends with trust. You know, blockchain has the promise and the opportunity to restore trust in this marketplace that lacks it. And so each and every one of us here starts there. It's a relationship. It's a reputation. When we're asking for an opportunity, we're saying, we're going to put everything on the line to make this work. And so I would start and end with the word trust.
So what's one piece of advice that Doug Weaver, speaking of him, gave you that still approaches your way of doing business today?
Yeah, I told him this last night when he asked me, and I'll share it with you. We have started most of our presentations with the $22 billion of ad fraud. And what Doug compelled us to do, and I think we're all taking this to heart, is make that number relevant for the person you're talking to. When they have a budget that is being wasted, what does that number mean to them? Is it $30 million of their budget that's being wasted? Is it $100 million? Make it relevant to them, personalize it so that they understand what that impact is for them.
So you've been in a lot of businesses and you see a lot of leaders. What is the biggest leadership pet peeve that you had that other people do wrong in running companies? Sorry, that was a little wordy. I apologize.
Yeah, no, that's a fair question. I mean, leaders around the industry don't lack for a very, healthy ego. I think it requires a little bit of an ego, but most of these leaders, don't get out of their own way. And for me, and the way I think about it is, it takes a village. It takes a team. I was an athlete, my early part of my life, and that way of going about business never changed from my early days. It takes a team. And
what type of sports and how?
I'm a baseball player.
And how did it affect how you do business?
Yeah, it's all about the team, Pesach. That's
right.
What I'm trying to say. And I don't think leaders throughout, certainly in the advertising industry, really grasp that. You have a lot of leaders who, it's about them. Here at BlockBoard, it's not about me. It's about this team. It's about this technology that we've created. And that's how we go to market. So that would be what I would say.
So what position did you play and what position do you think you're in right now?
I'm a third baseman. Take all the hard shots.
I was going to say shortstop, but I was close.
It's great, and I'm laughing and smiling as I'm about to give you my answer. At third base, they call it the hot corner because you're getting drilled by the hardest. They call it exit velocity off these bats. I mean, we get the hardest hit balls coming to us third base. And I, throughout my career, have always taken those hard shots, never more than I do today. So great analogy and great question, Pesach.
And so what's the best compliment you've ever received as a leader?
So I'm proud to say I was awarded Founder of the Year by Digiday this year. I hold that publication in high regard, and I'm proud. And Nick has been a friend of mine since I've been in this business. He promised me he had nothing to do with it, and I'm sure he's right. But the fact that listen, it was a terrific honor. I told my team this. I said, it's really not about me. I'll accept it, but I hope next year we win for best platform. So it was a terrific honor. We're proud of it, but yes, it's really more about our technology.
So now we've covered the human side of business. Let's look at what creativity looks like when it's backed by innovation, bold ideas. Most ads are skippable, forgettable, and as appealing as a wet sock. What is the secret to making ad campaigns that people actually care about?
Very exciting question, because now with AI, we have the opportunity to get the right message to the right person faster than ever. And that is precisely what we're doing by tacking AI on top of the blockchain platform we've created. Blockchain now serves as guardrails for our AI, so that when you want to reach Pesach in New York City, we're hitting you faster than ever through AI, but we're assuring the advertiser that they really did reach you. That's how we're combining these two incredibly powerful technologies together today.
So is there one campaign you've worked on that makes you think, this is why I'm in the business?
Yes. It's one of the founding stories of BlockBoard. It was a friend of mine who then became a customer of mine named Mike Scalera. He was at 8 o'clock coffee. And in the middle of the pandemic, he confided in me. He said, Matt, my agency continues to use YouTube and Trade Desk, but I'm not selling bags of coffee. I have no idea how long the pandemic's going to last while no one is going to Starbucks. I need to sell coffee. And I said, Mike, I just built this platform, but I would love the opportunity. And he gave us that, as we talked about earlier, the proverbial 50K test, and off we went. And he tested us ABC against Trade Desk and YouTube. And lo and behold, he used Nielsen as his measurement. 0 lift on Trade Desk, 0 lift on Google, and we 3 to 4x. We sold $186,000 of bags of coffee for Mike Scalera. So what did I get there? I got a founding case study. I helped my friend. He got promoted. And in a dire time, what was the pandemic, we helped a marketer win. Those are the types of things that get me excited every single day.
What's the name of the coffee? I just have a new cold brewer that I need a new roast for. Audience are smarter than ever. So how do you create campaigns that don't insult their intelligence?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to hit them when they're receptive with messaging that they want to hear from. And that's a very hard thing to do. It's the holy grail, sure, and we all have to hold ourselves to the highest standards, and that's where we want to go. It's extremely hard to do. I think through the technologies, the marriage of blockchain and AI and all the things I just talked about, we're getting a lot closer to that.
Right.
Creative has to enter into that equation. I think creative has a long way to go. That's starting to become a conversation we're having a lot more of with marketers. But, it's where we're all trying to get.
Right. In your career, what's the biggest creative risk that you've ever taken, and how did it turn out?
I've taken creative risks in all of my companies going back to my days at Warner Brothers. I was part of the launch team of Friends. I'm sure you've heard of Friends.
I have.
I went out there.
Not actually filmed in New York City.
Yeah, not filmed in New York City. And what was funny is,
It's amazing how many people I tell them that, and they look at me like I have 3 heads. They believe that a bunch of people a bunch of Gens, or whatever it was then, Gen X people, with little or no income can live in a multi-million-dollar apartment in New York City.
Yeah, no, and that's really where the creative has dated itself, right? But back then, everyone thought Friends was a fad. That's what my buyers told me. And I then went to CBS and I tried to sell Survivor, and the buyer said, it's never going to work. It's not live.
Right.
I have then taken those creative risks to digital advertising when I launched Cube Fabulous at BBE, and Jen and Barb Mom Life, and we won a Webby Award. I took the same risks at Torrential, my second company, with NFL Digital Diaries, and Geico was over the moon excited with that. And even here at BlockBoard, we launched Laughter is the Best Medicine in the middle of the pandemic to make people laugh, give people some levity. And for Englewood Health Hospital, it was a huge success. I love the content stuff. I love the creative risks because it is incredibly risky. But I hope that as we get and evolve in our space, that we can get back to the creative and getting back to taking those risks.
So if you had unlimited budget and unlimited creativity, what would you do?
I mean, we're pressing the edges here, pushing the envelope here at BlockBoard, and even without the blank check, we're going global. We are, building out our technology with AI. We're doing all the things that I wanted to do, even if I had a blank check. And that's why I'm so excited about the business and the future. But obviously, if I had a blank check, you asked me the question, I would do it all a lot faster.
Let's move on to marooning you on a desert island, because this is the funnest part of the show, and I really enjoy it. You have no Wi-Fi, no ad servers. Which 5 marketing legends would you bring? And who gets kicked off first when the resources run low?
I did sell Survivor, as I just said.
Right.
But my marketing mentors. So I'm very proud that I'm still very close with Rashad Tabakawala. He's the first and foremost, and I would welcome
We're
him.
interviewing him in a couple of weeks. So.
Oh, that's awesome. So
I'm glad I got that done. That was one of my heroes also.
That's amazing. Yeah, I don't have many others. I would probably ask Bruce Springsteen to join me just because he's a hero of mine and he inspires me every day, even though he's not from my business per se.
Right. But the music's good.
Okay. And then if I further that, I bring my sports hero, which would be Derek Jeter. I told you I'm a baseball player. So I would have Rashad, Derek Jeter, and Bruce Springsteen. There we go. We share that in common. Thank you, Pesach. And I don't know who I'd kick off first. That would be the hardest question. And I do not have an answer for that one.
So you also mentioned David Ogilvy in the pre-interview questions. Would he probably thrive or lose his mind with A/B testing? I mean, mind you, he's dead, but
David Ogilvy. They're the icons of the early advertising industry. I would love to tell them what and show them what we're doing today. My guy was Saul Waring and Joe LaRosa. I went to work at Waring and LaRosa 30 years ago, and both are gone. I would love to tell my version of David Ogilvy, who would be Waring and LaRosa, you've got to see this. This is going to blow your mind. And I know both of them would be over the moon excited.
yeah, I wish I still had it. We brought David Ogilvy back from the dead in 2005 for the OMA conference.
AI will bring them back. Don't you
Yeah,
worry.
hopefully. So what's the first time you signed to Alexander the Great if he magically appeared on your island?
First task, I would say, join me in this quest to obliterate digital ad fraud. All hands on deck. And he's a better warrior than I am. So that would be what I'd ask him.
So if you create one ad campaign to barter with the passing ships for rescue, what would it be?
Chip to barter with the passing chips.
No, one ad campaign with passing ships.
I don't know how to answer that. I don't know. I don't understand that question.
And you can't just say, help, we're starving.
What's that?
And you can't just say, help, we're starving.
I
Let's
would-
move on.
I
Which
just
market-
get for and start begging. I don't know. I don't know. Got milk? Got milk? There you go. Got milk?
So which marketing legend would you say was most likely to crack under pressure and start arguing about KPIs?
Koff. AJ Eichhoff. They're the lead. He created the first direct response ad agency in Chicago in 1959. And so his legacy lives on. They still operate. They're owned by WPP. But I have a good friend in Margaret Ferralio who runs the shop there. And, I know she knows that her founder would be the first one to ask for KPIs.
So once you've been rescued, what's the one story from your island experience that would headline your memoir?
The memory would be talking to Bruce Springsteen about the songs that have inspired me and are my life, the storybook of my life. He's a hero of mine, and I would tell him, Jungle Land was my inspiration growing up, and hearing Clarence Clemens, a horn saxophone that inspired me from Little Marlboro, New Jersey to do the things I did, all to New York City Serenade, which literally kept me sane through the pandemic. So that would be my memory, is having those conversations with the boss.
We know about the professional Matt Wasserlauf, but let's talk about the human side. Who are you when the blockchain is off, the campaigns are running, and you're just you?
I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I have 3 beautiful kids, just an amazing wife. And, at the end of the day, when the camera's off, I'm just a dad, I'm a husband, and that's how I'm going to leave this earth. That's my legacy.
But how has that shaped you as a person?
I tried to raise good kids. As long as they're happy and they're good to their fellow people and do what's right. I know I've done my work, my piece. And so that's what I really care about.
So we asked your kids what you do for a living, what would they say?
They've gotten to the age where they know full well what I do, and I think they're proud.
It's not like something to do with crypto.
Yeah, it's actually my oldest who started trading crypto just so he can try to understand what his dad does. And I told him from that day when he opened his wallet, I said, that is exactly not what I do for a living.
If you could give your piece of advice to your 20-year-old self, what would it be? And would you even listen?
Be patient. Be patient.
Be patient?
Yes. I never, and to this day, I'm still impatient. So, if you find the right lane, the things that set you afire, that get you excited, get you out of bed every morning, that's the ticket. That's what you need to do. And I do tell my kids this, but my 20-year-old self wasn't patient, was trying to, was every day was running for desperation to try to figure it out. And I would just beg my 20-year-old self's patience.
Do you have a crazy hobby or interest that nobody knows about or would expect?
I think I'm pretty average. I'm a baseball card collector. I'm a baseball player, but I always save my heroes. I traded those baseball cards. I flipped them, beat them, but they're my treasured little collection, and that's my hobby.
No bike spokes.
You know what? I didn't do the bike spoke, and I'm grateful for it. So my kids will inherit a collection that actually might be a little bit valuable.
What's one book, movie, or experience that has changed your perspective on life? And was it something deep or just the first time you watched Star Wars?
Definitely Star Wars. I would say Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance was a big one for me. It taught me to gain some poise and presence when I was that 20-year-old anxious self. So that was a big one. Tao and Winnie and the Pooh, Zen and the Art of Winnie the Pooh. But today Hamilton. I read the Ron Chernow book about Hamilton and just all the things.
I thought you meant the musical.
I love the musical, but that book had a real profound impact on me. It's a big book, but I turned every page and read every single page, and I'll tell you, what an inspiration.
What's one part that inspired you the most?
The fact that this immigrant kid found it after losing both his parents and came here and convinced George Washington that he was worthy and should trust him to help found this country, and all the incredible work that set that foundation that I experience today. If I read the New York Post, or if I, look at what the Treasury and our banks are doing, those are the things that inspire me.
If you weren't in advertising marketing, what career do you think you'd be pursuing? Marine biology or something similar?
Marine biology. I loved the show. What was it, 40-something? And it was about these young, or 20-something, I forget what it was. That show I loved because it was all about these two guys. One was the creative and one was the account guy, the business guy. And I saw myself in that business guy, and I said, that's where I want to be. And I never even looked at option B or C or D. I got my way into wearing a La Rosa, and I've been on my way ever since, 35 years later. So I never even thought about it.
So I appreciate you making blockchain sounding way cooler than kale, but what is one legacy you hope to leave behind, not just in ad tech, but in life?
Be a good person. That's, like I said, with my kids, my wife, if you're a good person and you do the right things and you're helpful to your fellow man or woman, then you've done your piece. And that is exactly what I hope is going to bring our industry back to a better place. So it's all about being a good human being.
We're going to get you to dance?
Matt Wasserlauf came on and didn't just drop truth bombs, he brought the flamethrower. From torching the $20 billion ad fraud dumpster fire to using blockchain to make transparency cool again, Matt's on a mission to drag digital advertising kicking and screaming into accountability. And if you thought blockchain was just for crypto bros, think again. Matt's proving it's actually useful. Who knew? If you're sick of the same tired excuses from ad tech, this episode was the wake-up call you didn't know you needed. Now let's get to the thank yous while the music kicks in. Troutman, Amin. We're always showing up and making sure we keep things mostly on track. Incremental. A huge shout out for sponsoring us for the next year. Clearly they appreciate good content and even better ideas. Rembrandt.com, using AI the right way without the Silicon Valley snake oil. Hats off to you. Dailymotion.com. Sean Black knows advertising better than most people know their own birthdays. Seriously, go find him on LinkedIn. That's it for today. Stay bold, stay curious, and for crying out loud, stay smarter than the algorithm.